It's here. It's finally here and in record time too. The sequel to How to Train Your Dragon, the live action remake that no one ever wanted or needed to that perfectly awesome animated trilogy. So, yeah, bless him, but this is strike two for Mason Thames, who's reprising his role as Finn Blakely. Did you say grabber? I'm gonna grabber myself a large bottle of bourbon, fill my eardrums, and dunk my eyeballs in it. We thought it was over. We thought it was done. But it's back. Extra black with a new ringtone and oh my god. It's a sequel to the Black Phone. Black Phone 2. Dial of Destiny. Whatever you do, don't fall asleep to this review because the grabber has learned a new trick. And it's suspiciously familiar. You couldn't leave it alone, could you?
You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Greenlit by the green crisp dollar bill. Who was it that sat at the ballroom table and said, "Yeah, let's turn that beautifully tight little horror film into a franchise"? It's a rhetorical question, dear subscriber, but who can blame them? Hollywood is rotting, failing, burning, and losing money quicker than Uncle Steve in the local Romford strip club. Yeah, that fast. But before we start pulling this sequel apart like a cheap Halloween mask, let's actually give credit where it's due. The first film, The Black Phone, was a proper little horror gem, a tight, self contained thriller. Some might call it a claustrophobic masterpiece. It was lean, focused, and most importantly, it understood the power of less. Vinnie Blake, played by Mason Thames, is trapped in the basement, that horrifically quiet concrete crypt, relying on the ghostly whispers of past child victims to outsmart Ethan Hawke's chilling villain, the Grabber. The genius of that movie wasn't in jump scares, it was in the dread. Every creak of a floorboard, every breath that Finney took, every ring of that damn phone carried weight. The Grabber never needed an origin story, a magic spell, or dream powers. He was terrifying because he felt real, a monster who didn't need to explain himself. That's why I gave the original a solid 9 out of 10. It told a complete story, no dangling plot lines like a cheap sequel bait, and no, is he still out there? Is he going to come back? That sly wink at the camera. It ended where it needed to end, a clean horror arc wrapped up in a nightmare bow. But, of course, Hollywood can't let a good ending rest. They see a success in the original, smell the box office numbers, and whisper, sequel.
Oh, Chuck, it's Lawrence here. Did you see the numbers for the Black Phone? Yes, the one that we didn't think would make any money. Yes, yes, it made money. I know. I don't really have a story to tell. I know, yes, we wrapped it up. I know we did. We didn't leave anything dangling. No sequel carrots, but guess what? It made money, so let's just knock out another one, yeah? We'll make it a nice franchise. Guess what? We'll get skin in Fortnite. Yeah, the kids will love that. A nice skin in Fortnite. Story? No, don't worry about a good story.
Enter stage left, Black Phone 2, directed again by Scott Derrickson and co-written by C. Robert Gargill. The Dream Team is back, but this time the Grabber is pulling some pretty cruel cosplay. Yeah, they gave the Grabber dream powers. Dream powers, you hear? Straight from Elm Street 101. If you die in your dream, you die in real life, which was groundbreaking in 1984. In 2025, it's about as fresh as my crusty pants. This time, however, our main protagonist is Gwen Blake, played by Madeline McGraw. She's back and, to be fair, does carry the film. Finn's still there, but Gwen drives the story with her psychic visions and sleepwalking powers, which, let's be honest, are probably the smartest decision the script makers made. Shifting the focus from Finn's survival to Gwen's horror supernatural fight gives the sequel a new perspective, even if it is attached to a wobbly plot skeleton. The problem is the film wants to be both Black Phone and A Nightmare on Elm Street. It wants to be grounded and dreamlike, and trying to balance both is sometimes it ends up being neither. And I dare whisper, a slight bore fest. 3 years after the events of the original, Gwen is at a youth camp because apparently every horror sequel since 1980 requires a summer camp. She's trying to live a normal life, but of course, trauma doesn't clock out. Nightmares begin, twisted visions of the grabber stalking her in a dream corridors that feel like a haunted IKEA. I must stop mentioning IKEA in my reviews and commentary because I'm not sponsored by them. The film layers mystery, teens start disappearing, and Gwen begins piecing together that the grabber isn't just a ghost whisperer anymore. He's evolved into something more elastic. He moves through dreams, stalks the living, and slowly blurs the line between the dreamscape and the real world. There are a few generally great sequences here. One early nightmare scene uses subtle lighting and barely there whispers to replicate the cold terror of the first film, but then the rules start bending like overcooked spaghetti. And this is where the main problem lies. See, the grabber can only harm Gwen in her dreams. Then suddenly, midway through, he can start yanking things into the waking world. By the final act, he's basically a horror Pokemon with every power unlocked. No clear rules, no clear stakes, just, well, vibes. And a horror without rules is like a house of cards in a hurricane. The suspense collapses when the audience can't trust the world that you've built. And also, a rotary phone as a spiritual anchor. Really? Someone in the writer's room must have said, "What if the phone is like a totem?" And nobody laughed them out of the room. Then there's the cast. Madeline McGraw as Gwen. She's the MVP. She does manage to ground this overstuffed supernatural story with a raw, emotional performance. You believe in her fear, you believe in her strength. She is the emotional spine of the film, even when the script starts doing somersaults around her. Mason Tem as Finn, still excellent, though he's pushed more into the supporting zone here. We see a boy trying to grow up while still carrying the weight of that bloody basement. His trauma isn't over, and the film sprinkles in some really heartfelt brother sister moments that do keep the script and story moving and human. Ethan Hawke as the grabber, he's back, but it's not the same silent boogeyman. This is more theatrical, more ghostly, and a little too Freddy Krueger in my flavour. Hawke clearly has fun with the role, adding new layers to the menace, but part of that made the grabber work originally was how little we saw of him. Here, they shine the flashlight directly at the monster. And the supporting cast, the teens and camp stuff, are mostly here to pad the body count. They exist to make Gwen's mission harder, to vanish dramatically, and then appear later as a ghostly exposition machine. Scott Derrickson leans heavier into surrealism this time. Cinematographer Brett Ulovich embraces a grainy 16mm inspired texture in the dream sequences that give this film an unnerving retro vibe, like a cursed camp film strip. It's very reminiscent of the home video scenes in his previous film, Sinister, which is another movie by him that I highly recommend. The sets are clever, narrow camp cabins, dense wood, and the occasional callback to that iconic basement. The visual language wants you to feel trapped, whether it's in a dream or in real life, and it almost works too well, to the point where the entire movie starts to feel like a dream sequence. Sound design is absolute killer here. The creak of the phone, whispers just low enough to make you lean forward in your seat, and the ambient noise that lives in the corner of your mind. If the writing was as half as sharp as the sound design, then we'd be onto a masterpiece territory here. I know, yes, they're already pushing that 4K Steelbook pre-orders at 34.99 with some bent art cards and a folded up poster that will probably live in your drawer. Yep, I've ordered myself 4 copies. Let's talk about Blow. The first film was a sprint. This one is a meandering hike through a foggy forest with no GPS. Pacing problems pop up everywhere. Long dream sequences that feel like they're going somewhere and then don't. Exposition delivered like cold porridge. The grabber's powers go full cheat code midway through, which unravels the carefully set tension. It's like giving Michael Myers a jetpack. And the dialogue, it's uneven. Some scenes have that crisp, unnerving, quiet horror. Others sound like leftover drafts from a CW pilot. The film struggles to balance atmosphere with plot explanation, and it's plainly obvious when the two clash. The core issue here is with so many modern sequels, the original worked because it was simple. The sequel adds too many bells, whistles, and a weirdly talkative ghost villain. Credit where it's due, though. There are some good bits in the film. Ethan Hawke is still terrifying, even when overused. That mask, that body language, that voice, it still works. Gwen's emotional arc adds heart to a story that otherwise risks floating away like a lost balloon. Some dream sequences are visually stunning, and there's one involving the phone and a flooded cabin that generally made me sit up. And for the fans of the first film, there are some callbacks and little nods that do feel earned. Well, we're nearly at the end of the review. And thank you for sticking by. Look, did this sequel need to exist? No. Is it an absolute disaster? Also, no. It's a textbook case of sequelitis. Lower stakes, looser rules, slower pacing, but just enough craft to keep it from sinking entirely. If Freddy Krueger's low budget cousin who raided a pop room and found a rotary phone. For those who love the first film's tight structure, this won't ruin the legacy, but it won't haunt your dreams either. It's a fun, occasionally tense horror popcorn flick. Not essential, but it's not a train wreck either. It's just, well, it just exists. I'm going to give this one 6.5 out of 10. And for the first film reminder, I gave that a 9 out of 10 because it was eerie, efficient, and exactly where it should have. Look, Wes Craven did it better in 1984, folks. Freddy's shadow looms large, and the grabber just isn't big enough to fill those claws. Comment below. Are you Team Solid Sequel or Team Let the Nightmare Rest? And remember, folks, whatever you do,
Fall asleep.
and I will see you on the next video.